apologize that I have been writing comments and going through them over and over. So I have a lot of material here, so I apologize ahead. And like Kitty, I want to thank the many residents of Durham and others who have taken the time and effort to thoughtfully and passionately share their comments, questions, and concerns. I'd also like to thank the commissions and committees that discussed the future of the dam and shared their conclusions. And thanks also to VHB, their professionalism, research reports, and presentations. Before addressing the dam, I would like to share that I learned more about duckweed. Dr. Harris pointed out that maybe some of that green that we're seeing is duckweed. So I found that the term pond scum refers to algae and by its appearance is often misidentified. Dr. Harris pointed out the green that we now see covering the surface of the water is duckweed. Both algae and duckweed are indicators of phosphorus and nitrogen enrichment, something that we don't want. Duckweed is able to absorb nitrogen, phosphorus, ammonia, potassium, and other pollutants. And because it is a plant, it produces oxygen as a byproduct of photosynthesis when exposed to sunlight. However, the benefits of oxygen production are negated at night or when sunlight is not available because the plants consume oxygen in the process of cellular respiration. In certain cases, the amount of oxygen being used by duckweed can exceed the amount being produced and thus results in oxygen depletion. This often happens during hot summer months. You may remember those, not too long ago, when the water is warmer and unable to hold greater amounts of oxygen, or in cloudy days when there's minimal sun. Duckweed doesn't rid the water of nitrogen and phosphorus. It just takes it up into cell walls. In winter, as the duckweed dies, it releases the nutrients back into the water column all at once, causing nutrient levels to spike. There's no perfect decision about the dam that's going to please everyone, and I think we've certainly heard both sides of that discussion. The wild areas of Durham support mammals, amphibians, reptiles, and bird life. They're the same as those that may be displaced by the change from a freshwater to an estuarine environment with the removal of the dam. Durham is fortunate to have approximately 45% of its land conserved either by the town or by UNH. These lands, riparian wildlife corridors, are part of the Lamprey and Oyster River watersheds and support the species that are also seen along the Oyster River and in the impoundment above the dam. We can expect the impoundment above the tidal flow to become an emergent freshwater marsh wetland like the one that now exists where the Little Hale Pond recently stood on Baghdad Road. Whether or not the dam is restored, there are many challenges for some species of fish. A pond with degrading dissolved oxygen and increasing water temperatures will make the water less survivable. Drought will lower water levels with or without the dam. Regardless, the Mill Pond Dam will continue to be a barrier to improving water quality. Statements collected from marine and fisheries biologists support the removal of the dam to improve the survivability of migratory fish. Ponds experience eutrophication. What we are seeing in the pond and the impoundment is the natural progression being accelerated by cultural eutrophication. Our daily activities contribute to the stormwater pollution that causes the cultural eutrophication we see in the Mill Pond and the impoundment. The former Little Hale Pond is an example of how upstream development can bring dramatic changes to a former pond that is now, without its dam, a free-flowing brook and freshwater wetland. The eutrophication is accelerating the rate at which the Mill Pond is becoming shallower and its water quality is degrading. The pollutants that are arriving in the Mill Pond have accumulated as they have traveled from Barrington through fields, forests, neighborhoods, and developed lands, such as those of the Lee traffic circle and Durham's downtown. Durham does have the largest portion of the watershed, about 38%, and the towns of Lee, Madbury, Barrington, Dover, and Nottingham share the remaining 62% of the watershed. Improvements to the water quality are needed whether or not the dam is restored. The influx of pollutants is not easy to fix, and one that we will not be able to control without significant changes in infrastructure and implementation of best practices for land use, along with the cooperation of multiple towns and private property owners of the watershed. Climate change is with us, and we can expect increasing temperatures for the air and water. We already know that the water temperatures of the Mill Pond will increase due to sediment infill and shallower water and the warming water temperatures that are correlated with the water's ability to hold less dissolved oxygen. We can also expect that the Mill Pond and impoundment will have decreasing ability to function as a skating, skiing, and snowshoeing recreation site in winter, as has been used in the past. Climate research suggests that the winter seasons will arrive later, and there will be an increasing shortening of the winter season, with the earlier arrival of last spring's frost and the loss of pond ice. Expanding vegetation and shallow water continue to reduce the open water for boating. Restoration of the dam will contribute to continued vegetation growth, and over time the pond will become a freshwater wetland, unable to support current migratory fish populations and summer recreational activities. With climate change, it is predicted that we can expect summers with increased warm weather pest species, such as mosquitoes, ticks, and algae, as well as increased threats to cold water fish and wildlife species, more heavy rain events, more flooding, and a greater frequency of 1 to 2 month droughts. It doesn't sound good whether we have a dam or not. Removing the dam will introduce tidal salt into the current environment and will lead to the growth of cordgrass and other vegetation. Tidal wetlands filter chemicals and sediment out of the water, improving water quality before it is discharged into the ocean. The cordgrass of salt marshes sequesters and stores large amounts of carbon due to their rapid growth rates and slow decomposition rates. Invasives will be present with or without the dam. They are present now, and our intervention is needed to control their growth and expansion. Plans for restoration and removal will need to include plans to fight the advance of invasive plants. We are fortunate that Durham has a land stewardship coordinator who actively addresses the invasive plants on our public lands with the help of volunteers. Without the dredging of the pond accompanying a dam restoration, the costs of restoration are more similar to those for dam removal. VHB reminds us that the costs they have suggested are for relative comparison and not exact figures. For restoration without dredging, it looks like the 5-year initial capital cost of dam restoration would be $1,069,370, plus the operation and maintenance expenses for the life of the pond and the impoundment, along with the unknown costs associated with continued local efforts for improvement of water quality in the pond and impoundment, as well as the future cost of the dam's replacement or removal. Removal of the dam would cost $1,443,350, an amount that can be reduced with grant funding. For example, the National Marine Fisheries and NOAA approved $610,960 of funding for the town of Exeter's Great Dam Removal Project through the Coastal Ecosystem Resiliency Grant Program, and Exeter was also awarded an additional $190,060 from other agencies. There's no guarantee that Durham will find the same funding as Exeter. Each dam removal is different. We cannot know what funding will be made available for this project. Many residents have asked that we protect the scenic, historic, cultural, and recreational resources of the Mill Pond and its impoundment. We cannot protect the current or past scenic views of the pond and the impoundment. They will not remain as they are today, even if we restore the dam. The eutrophication will continue, and already the pond no longer appears as it did in past decades. We cannot protect the historic landscape of the pond and impoundment from natural and cultural eutrophication. We can continue to make the area open and scenic. The historic significance of the dam itself may be changed when the Amberson structure is no longer shows the engineering that supports the dam. While removing the dam, we will have the option to preserve a section of the dam and enable it to be seen and studied. The dam does not serve as a source of energy or protection for current and future water and shoreline habitats. The dam represents a history of the past achievements as do stone walls and stone foundations, remnants of early mills, the Gundalow, our historic homes and buildings, and our Durham Historical Association Museum. We do not lose its history by removing the dam. We can celebrate and commemorate its historic significance. Vegetation will continue to spread and change the waters available for recreation. Summer and winter recreation will become more limited as climate change impacts temperatures and precipitation. Even now, vegetation is closing in on the pond, and you cannot see the open waters of the pond from the Oyster River Park shoreline benches. We can be proactive in meeting a future that comes with climate change and continue to pursue improvements to pollution and water quality issues throughout the watershed. How Durham's cultural resources are defined will vary by resident. I believe that Durham supports open, undeveloped, and conserved lands to protect wildlife and natural vegetation and provide public access and recreational opportunities. Durham values intellectual curiosity as exemplified in the offerings of our public schools, the University of New Hampshire, our library, our parks and rec programs, etc. Durham values our active pursuit of sustainability by seeking energy efficiency, supporting agriculture, reducing waste through recycling and composting options, planning for and adapting to climate change. Durham values the positive contributions of our town professionals, our police force, our fire department, and emergency medical service, our town administrative staff, and our Department of Public Works. Durham values the community of volunteers that make up this and support our boards, commissions, committees, and the energetic discourse of our residents. Durham's culture is not based on things, but on creativity, initiatives, and accomplishments that help us adapt to the changing needs of our community in its natural environment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Who wants to go next? Pardon?
Sure. Nice to have a mask on.